We've come to Alpha Beta School at Dansoman to find out from the authorities here their level of preparations. To speak to me as the head of operations here, Dr. Naomi Ejapon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So far, I've realized that some preparation works are ongoing. Give us more details as to what you've been doing so far.
Okay, so as you know, the president directed that school should go back. That was just over a week ago. And we've had to get into gear pretty quickly because the notice given was not so much. Even though we were told last year that January was when students will go back, not much came out in terms of guidelines or plans to help us prepare. So once they told us, we had to try and prepare some way, somehow, even though we thought some guidelines would be released. But so far, we haven't seen anything yet.
As heads of schools or management of schools, are you confused with respect to clarity in duration and much more details as to how to treat or handle your students when they come?
Absolutely. I mean, we have had to employ a lot of guesswork, a lot of trying to copy what has happened in other countries, etc. As for us at Alpha Beta, from last year, we had a COVID plan in place, which we have still had to modify a little bit more to be able to accommodate the current circumstances. But it's difficult because the challenge is that without a standard guide, even engaging with parents can sometimes prove a little bit difficult because all schools will not be acting consistently. So, of course, we all know that it's been very, very difficult for parents, especially because they've had to either supervise online learning or some haven't even had any teaching at all. And, you know, they really want their children to get back on track with their education. So they're keen, a lot of people are keen for their children to go back to school. But from a school's point of view, we're also keen to make sure it's safe. Because once they are with us, we need to make sure we're doing everything in our power to make sure that they're not going to have a really high risk of contracting the virus. Of course, we can only minimize the risk. We can't remove the risk altogether. And this is something that we have to constantly make clear to parents.
Today I came around to come and get my child pay her school fees. And then when I came to, I've seen that the school has put up all the necessary infrastructure down to combat the COVID. I can see sanitizers all over, and at the security post too, they check everybody's temperature before you get in. We had a meeting before, ahead of time, and the school also rolled out their modalities and how best they are going to combat the COVID. And I think in all, whatever is expected to make sure that the school and then the safety of the children is done has been put in place.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the reopening of schools, students or your wards are going to be back to school. Is it relief for you, or you still have some great concerns?
Absolutely. The children needs to be in school. Even with this school, they rolled out a very good virtual learning. But I think with the child education, the physical aspects and then the contact with the teachers also is very paramount.
For the private schools, they have a council called the Ghana National Council of Private Schools. Their executive director is Enoch Kwesijetia. We're here to find out from you if the concerns of some of your members are correct, that there has not been any guidelines towards the reopening of schools. Is that correct?
Thank you very much, Caleb. One thing we have to understand is that since the closure of schools and then the reopening of schools, concerns of private schools have not been properly addressed as a partner to the Ministry of Education. But notwithstanding, the private schools in their own has been trying to figure things up to see how best they can solve these things. The Ministry of Education, and for that matter, the president himself, let me put it that way, announces the reopening of schools on the 15th. And the following day, the Ghana Education Service also came out with the reopening guidelines. But if you look at the reopening guidelines, it is more of the academic calendar that is mostly preparing how schools are supposed to be reopened. But looking at 10-month closure of schools, and you want to, go back to your normal duties, there should be a comprehensive book, or let's say guideline that's supposed to be developed, or more or less a blueprint, so that the systematic way of organizing things working in the schools can be addressed.
In what ways can government assist, or in what ways is your council looking to government for assistance?
We are looking, as we speak now, we are looking for what we call a regulatory flexibility, where we are entitled to pay certain statutory forms of taxes, such as GRA, SNIT, National Inspectorate Board, annual subscriptions and the rest. And all these payments are due now. Now schools are reopening. So if government doesn't come in with any flexibility, that will enhance the schools to prepare themselves adequately for financial, backing to be able to pay these things. It will really go against most of the schools.
So what's flexible enough for the schools?
Extensions. We are looking for, let's say, 6 months extension of all this period of time. That by the end of the day, by 6 months' time, we would have been prepared or gone through the system, and for that matter, we will be able to soundly financially to pay this kind of statutory payments.
To address all the concerns of private schools, City News is reliably informed of an open day conference that will be happening to bring you up to speed on all you need to know ahead of the reopening of schools. For City News, I am Caleb Kuda.